Have you heard that caffeine is good for performance, but you're a little bit nervous about using it on race day because you've also heard some of those horror stories about feeling too anxious and a bit too fluttery and maybe a bit just jittery, or even experiencing unwanted GI distress from the excess of caffeine in the morning and then queuing too long for those porta toilets. So you're thinking, God, if only I knew how much to have, what to have, when to have it. Now, I'm going to try and explain to you the ins and outs of caffeine. We're going to try and talk about the numbers informed by sports science best practice, and then also make it practical. And I'm going to relate this back to what I did on my 10-minute half marathon PB at the end of February this year. So, with caffeine, we know it works for endurance performance. And the first thing I'm going to explain is the number that we're looking for. Now, this isn't how many coffees you're going to be having. We're going to talk about milligrams per kilogram of body weight. And in that way, you can relate this information to you, your body mass. So we are looking for between 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Okay? That is what has been shown to improve endurance performance in half marathon, marathon distance. Now, to be able to get into this range, we need to be quite specific with what we have. And we need to be able to have some caffeine products where that amount of caffeine is reproducible. So instead of relying on a coffee before your race, maybe you're traveling to a new city and you're just going to go to a Costa or a Nero and pick something up, I would highly recommend against that strategy. Reason being is that the coffees that you're going to buy there, be it a single or a double, depending on the bean, depending on the brewing, the amount of milligrams in that can vary hugely. So you don't actually know how much you're having, and if you have maybe 1 or 2 coffees because that was what you need or what you've been recommended, that might be the difference of being good, maybe not even having enough, or being overly caffeinated and being jittery and anxious. So what I'm going to recommend here is either use a coffee that you've had at home that you know suits you well and you've practiced with in training, or actually what might be more beneficial is using some supplements that contain caffeine. Why? Because the amount of caffeine in there is standardized, and you can then have confidence that I know I'm hitting exactly however much it is, 200, 300 milligrams of caffeine. Let me talk you through what I did and how I put this into practice for my half marathon PB. So I woke up in the morning, the race was at 10 a.m. start, so I got up and I had my breakfast around 7. Now, I quite like to have a caffeinated coffee on race day, but a normal coffee that I made here on my coffee machine, again, not entirely sure about the amount of caffeine in it, but we do know that a single shot of coffee is going to range between, say, 60 to 100 milligrams. So a double shot, in that sense, is going to be anywhere from 120 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. You can probably tell if the coffee that you have is quite lively or it's a little bit more mellow, and you get some coffees that are specifically high caffeine. So that might guide you as to the amount of milligrams of caffeine in that. So the coffee that I had this morning, I'm assuming it's in that mid range. So between 120 to 200. So it's about 160. So the coffee that I had in the morning, which was a double espresso, that was 160. So my body weight, this is again, useful bit of information here. My body weight is about 78 kilograms. So because we're trying to convert all of this into milligrams per kilogram of body weight, you can do the maths there, it's roughly 2, right? So that's about 2 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. But I've had that just after 7 o'clock. Now the race is at 10, so that's probably not going to be that beneficial for me during the race. But a reason I wanted to have that in there is because caffeine can help you have a successful bowel movement. It can help stimulate the bowel a little bit. Now, I'd done a low fiber carbohydrate intake the day before, so there wasn't a huge amount of fiber in my gut. So I just wanted that to come in to help things along a little bit and give myself a successful bowel movement so that I wasn't stressing about that before the race. That strategy worked well, and actually I knew it was going to work well because I'd practiced it before. So I had that strategy coming in and I had my 2 milligrams per kilogram body weight. Now I've mentioned a little bit about the timing there, so I'm going to quickly detail what's going on here. So when you have caffeine, if you drink it, it's going to peak in your system after about 30 to 45 minutes. Oh God, handwriting's terrible there. So it's peaking here and then it's quite a slow, gradual drop off, right? So actually, if the race is here, I've still got some from that morning coffee, but I'm not going to be peaking during it. But again, I had that there for my 10 a.m. start just to get the bowel moving. 2 grams per kilogram body weight. Now, I wanted to also have some caffeine coming in just before the race. So what did I do there? And this is where I used a supplement strategy. So I had 100 milligrams of caffeine coming in from a caffeinated gum. Caffeine gum. These are great because if I had it just 10 minutes before, and a caffeine gum, unlike a caffeine drink, hits a lot quicker. So it will hit and rise and peak after about 10 minutes because it doesn't actually get absorbed through the gut, it gets absorbed in the mouth. Drop my lid there. Oh no, put the mic. Sorry. Let's put the mic back on. There we go. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Because that caffeine is going to hit after 10 minutes, that's going to be good. But I've actually had that here, haven't I? So I've had it here at 9:50, 10 minutes before. So now I'm peaking again, but actually because there's caffeine already in my system, I'm coming up and I'm about here. So I've got lots of caffeine in at the start of my race. I've also, because I wanted to get up right neatly in this range, and I wanted to hit around 4 milligrams per kilogram body weight. The reason I went for that number is because I'm fairly sensitive to caffeine. If I had 6 milligrams, some people would be fine, but me, I would be in that jittery stage. So I also had 45 milligrams coming in from a gel. Okay, so we had 145 plus 160. Quick maths there is my total was 300 and come on maths, and 5. Thank you, good maths. I even got a calculator here to do that, did it in my head. 305. Divide that by my body weight, 78, equals, and I've done this before, 3.9 milligrams per kilogram. I want you to be that on it with your maths so that you know your numbers and you know exactly how much you're having. Now, this isn't something that you're going to suddenly do after the fact and you'll be working it out after you've done the race thinking, oh, how much caffeine did I have? No, I want you to plan how much you're going to have. Are you going to estimate it as best you can? And you're going to experiment with it in training so that you know whether you want to be in this 3 range or in this 6 range here, okay? Or anywhere in between. And I want you to know what products you're going to have to be able to get the right milligrams of caffeine coming in before that run. You might want to target around 5-10 minutes before so that it's peaking as you're about half an hour in and you're cruising through the rest of it. Or you might want to do a similar strategy to me, having some before to help with that bowel movement and then having some just before, also to bump you up. Hopefully that helps. I can detail what products I had. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to because I didn't want this to be about pushing different brands of supplement, but I'm going to do it anyway. Again, this isn't an advertisement. This isn't an affiliated post. The way I had that was coffee, just a nice coffee there, which was the double. And then this product, you can find these online. So if you just go on Amazon, for example, you can find caffeinated gums. If you are an affiliated athlete and you might be drugs tested, you might need to look for the informed sport ones, in which case I would use the HealthSpan Elite gum, which is this one here. This is actually the one I used. One of those is 100 milligrams of caffeine. Make sure you dispose of it before you start so that you're not chewing as well. And then this gel, quite a lot of gels have caffeine in, so make sure you read the label. They don't all have 45 milligrams, some will vary. The one I used here was by Protein Rebel and it was Maple Ignite with coffee. It's just 3 ingredients. Caffeine is natural coffee, maple and salt. So I quite like that one as well. And I'll link to that in the notes. Hopefully this has given you something to work on. It worked fantastically for me, but again, I'm caffeine sensitive, so I only had about 4. If you want a bit more, you can drive up to the higher end of that. Hopefully that helped. Remember to subscribe to my channel for more practical sport nutrition information.